Hello and welcome. Today we will talk about communication and conflict management skills. Effectively resolving employee and interpersonal conflicts through proper communication are important and mission critical aspects of a manager's responsibilities. Effective communication takes place whether it's intended or not. Communication is the process of exchanging information in such ways that ensure a mutual understanding of the content and feelings. This includes being heard as well as being understood. So those are the two elements, being heard and hopefully being understood by the people you're communicating with. Communication can also be defined as the transfer of information from one person to others without the meaning being changed. Often communication takes the forms of speaking and listening. While speaking is done for the purpose of being understood, listening is the real tool for understanding, learning, and growing in professional and management positions. Being a good listener sets you apart and helps you become a much better communicator while speaking. Have you ever had somebody describe you or tell you that you're a very good listener? If you have, it's a compliment that says quite a lot about you, and that's a good thing. Remember, people are like fruit. We're either green and growing, in other words, learning and thriving, or we are ripe and rotting, suffering mental stagnation and atrophy. And if we're not listening, obviously, we suffer from those. Living a life of continuous learning pays a wealth of dividends if we listen effectively. Listening is not natural, which means that we have to work at it in order to have effective communication. We can hear, but that does not always mean we're listening. Communication is simply exchanging information with others. However, effective communication is sharing information with others in such a way that they understand what you're saying. So the goal of effective communication is mutual understanding between you and the other person, between the speaker and the listener or listeners. Of course, mutual understanding can be a challenge because words, phrases, connotations, denotations, and having different primary languages can make communication much more complex than we can imagine. For a foreigner, it can be difficult to understand when a manager says, "It is best to kill two birds with one stone," so we can put out all the fires quickly and not have to deal with the can of worms that seems to pop up consistently. There are too many phrases there. What do we mean by statements or phrases like kill two birds with one stone? Why would we do that in the workplace? What do we mean by put out all the fires? What do we mean by the phrase of a can of worms? Do we have cans of worms in the workplace? And what do we mean by pop up in that statement? So again, all of these phrases that we use in our communities or culture needs to be clearly communicated with others. Such sentences can confuse a person if he or she is not used to the local context of the culture. Therefore, in a diverse workplace, one must communicate effectively by listening, by asking questions, and by confirming one's understanding, maybe through active or even empathic listening skills. Empathy means compassion, understanding and emotional identification with another person. It means putting yourself in the other person's shoe oftentimes. Empathic listening is the process of listening to both the content and the feelings of a message that is being conveyed to you. So you reflect on the meaning and emotions of the message, and then you restate your understanding to the other person, to the speaker. So empathic listening is simply a process that can lead to better communication and better understanding of what is being communicated between two individuals. There are many examples of empathic listening leads or phrases you may use when you're trying to clarify your understanding. For example, you can say things like, "As I hear it, you feel as if." To me, It's as if you're saying you want to do this or that. Well, those are listening leads. Empathic listening process is especially useful when there are emotional topics being discussed in the workplace. For example, people are unhappy or excited. Empathic listening is the process of discovering the sender's perspective, thoughts, and feelings by encouraging the sender to self-disclose through active or empathic listening again. So empathic listening involves listening with your eyes and your heart for feeling, and listening with the ears for facts, for thoughts, and for views. What are some benefits in listening? Effective listening is not a passive activity nor easy. As a matter of fact, it is very hard, and it's hard work to listen. Mentally it's draining, and it requires a person's 100% attention. But there are many benefits that you can gain from listening. You can learn by listening effectively. You can gain more friends by listening actively or empathically. Actively means you hear everything word for word and you can restate it. Listening can reduce tension among two or more individuals. And listening can help you better manage conflicts between you and your colleagues and between people in your team. You'll face some sort of conflict sooner or later. Conflict is often a characteristic of change, and we're dealing with change on a regular basis, whether it's in a classroom or in a boardroom or in society. However, too much conflict can be anxiety-inducing, debilitating, and destructive for a team or for a department. In general, conflict is the struggle that results when two or more individuals perceive a difference or incompatibility in their interests, in their values, or in their goals. Positive conflict, in other words, conflict that is managed effectively, is very good for team performance. It increases it. However, negative conflict can be very hurtful and dysfunctional. Also, effective conflict management requires thinking win-win for all parties involved, with the goal of jointly learning, growing, and cooperating together, especially in a diverse environment. When dealing with day-to-day conflicts, misconducts, and disagreements, remember to use the 4F model by emphasizing the facts, the feelings, and future expectations, and then if you're a manager, to follow up. Number one, facts. Stick with the facts and describe the behavior that is creating the problem or conflict. Avoid attacking the other person. Stick to the facts of the situation. Number two is feeling. State the impact of the problem or conflict, your feelings, the feelings of team members, and how the problem makes the team suffer. Use I statements by mentioning how the above mentioned problem or fact impacts you or your employees and colleagues. In other words, how I am impacted. Third is future expectations. Clearly describe future expectations, norms, and rules of conduct for your colleague or teammates who are having the conflict. If you're a manager, number four, follow up. Managers should follow up with the relevant parties involved to make sure employees are meeting the expected standards according to your discussion and agreed upon statements or the rules. The essence of effective conflict resolution is to work together without offending anyone or being offended by anyone in your department or organization. Ultimately, one should resolve all differences in a professional manner. You can use the 4F model or other communication skills. Overall, when it comes to day-to-day conflicts, managers have a choice to deal with the conflict, ignore the conflict, or leave the area or department that is causing the conflict. Some of those are not obviously very good solutions for you. You may not have that option. The best choice in many cases would be to proactively deal with a conflict in an effective manner using perhaps the 4F model. Effective managers attempt to avoid negative conflict through effective leadership and good interpersonal skills. These managers understand the realities of conflict in a diverse organization, and they use appropriate conflict management practices to develop an effective team in the entire department. Remember that learning is not complete until it is applied, because learning does not produce anything without actual application. As always, aim to be an inclusive professional who leads by listening effectively, learning continuously, and always thinking win-win for all stakeholders. Good luck being an effective communicator and a good conflict manager.